Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a topic that I think affects us all pretty much every day, and that's how to understand your home heating and cooling system, really your HVAC system.
Yeah.
And, we've gathered a bunch of information to really kind of try to dispel some of the most common misunderstandings about these systems,
Right.
because you hear all sorts of things, and it's hard to figure out what is true and what is not.
Right.
And so today we're going to try to give you the real deal, how these things actually work.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll lead to a little more comfort and maybe some savings on those energy bills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the goal, right? We're going to be looking at some of these myths that just won't die about HVAC systems.
Yeah.
And it's not just about saying, oh, this is wrong. It's really about explaining why these things that we think are true are actually not,
Yeah.
and what the impact is on your comfort and your wallet.
Yeah. Okay. So myth number one, and we hear this one all the time. If you really blast your thermostat like way up for heat, way down for AC, your house will get to the temperature you want much faster.
Yeah,
It feels intuitive.
it does.
Like pushing it to the extreme should get you there quicker.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Like if you want to get somewhere faster, you push the gas pedal harder.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the thing is, HVAC systems don't work that way.
Right.
So like, think about your furnace or your AC.
Oh,
They produce a certain level of heating or cooling, right?
Right.
Like at any given time,
okay.
setting the thermostat to 80 or to 60 doesn't suddenly make them output more,
Oh,
It just tells them to run for a longer time.
right. It's not like stomping on the gas pedal makes your car instantly go 100 miles an hour.
Exactly.
It just means you're using a lot more gas
Exactly.
to get to the same speed.
Yep.
So you're just using a lot more energy to do the same thing.
Precisely. The system will reach the set temperature no matter what.
Right.
The only difference is how long it runs and how much energy it uses.
So the best thing to do then is to set it to the temperature you want
Yes.
and let it work its way there.
Let it do its job.
Okay, no need to overshoot.
Exactly. And this is where we can start to think about smart thermostats,
Yeah.
which can
okay.
help you avoid this pitfall.
So how do smart thermostats help with this particular problem?
So smart thermostats allow you to set schedules.
Okay.
So you can set it to start warming up your house before you get home.
Oh.
So it's nice and toasty when you walk in,
Yeah,
but the system doesn't have to run full blast for hours to get there.
that's so smart.
It's about being energy smart.
Okay, let's move on to myth number two.
Okay.
And this is another big one that I hear all the time.
Yeah.
That closing the vents in rooms you don't use will save you money on your heating and cooling costs.
Right.
It seems logical at first.
It does.
You're like less space to heat or cool, less energy needed.
Right. Smaller area.
Exactly.
What's to do?
But is that true?
The thing about HVAC systems is that they're designed for a certain amount of airflow throughout your entire house.
Okay.
When you start closing vents, what you're really doing is creating resistance
That's right.
and back pressure in the ductwork.
Yeah.
And so it's basically working against itself.
Yeah, and that can't be good.
No, it's not good.
So what happens?
So what happens is this back pressure,
Yeah.
it puts stress on the blower motor,
Yeah.
which is the part of the system that's moving the air around.
Right.
So now the blower motor is working harder than it was designed to.
Right.
So it's not actually saving you energy. It might actually be using more.
So I'm getting the opposite effect of what I was trying to do.
Right.
Right.
And it gets worse.
Oh, no.
This back pressure can actually lead to leaks in your ductwork, especially if your ductwork is older
Oh, yeah.
and it's not properly sealed.
Oh, that's bad.
And then what happens is the conditioned air escapes into spaces that aren't conditioned,
Like the attic.
like your attic or your crawl space,
Right.
which is just a total waste of energy.
Okay, so closing vents is a no-no.
It's a big no-no.
So what's the best way to manage temperatures in different zones of your house?
Well, there are some more effective ways.
Okay.
One is to have a zoning system,
Okay.
which uses motorized dampers in the ductwork.
Okay.
That can be controlled to direct airflow where you need it.
Right.
You can also manually adjust dampers if your system has them.
Okay.
But the most important thing to remember is that you don't want to completely cut off airflow to any significant part of your house.
Right.
It's all about maintaining that balanced airflow.
Balanced airflow. That's the key.
That's the key.
Okay. Myth number 3. This one's a classic.
Yeah.
When it comes to HVAC systems, bigger is always better.
Right.
The thinking is if you get a more powerful unit, it's just going to heat or cool your home faster and more efficiently.
Yep. It seems logical, but not true.
So tell us why.
So oversized systems
Yeah.
often lead to what we call Short cycling.
Short cycling? What's that?
Short cycling is when the system turns on and off really frequently
Okay.
before it actually completes a full heating or cooling cycle.
So it's just like constantly turning on and off.
Exactly.
And why does that happen with a bigger system?
So with an oversized unit,
Yeah.
it's too powerful.
Right.
So it heats or cools the space too quickly,
Oh.
and it shuts off before it has a chance to properly condition the air.
Okay.
So for example, in the summer,
Okay.
it might cool the air down to the set temperature,
Right.
but it hasn't run long enough to remove the humidity.
So it feels clammy and sticky.
Exactly. And in the winter,
Yeah.
it might heat up one room quickly,
Right.
but not have enough time to distribute heat evenly throughout the whole house.
So you get these pockets of really hot and really cold air.
Exactly. It's just uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's not efficient.
And this is all because it's too big.
Yep. Too much power.
Okay.
Not a good thing.
And so what kind of problems can this short cycling lead to?
Well, it puts a lot of stress on all the parts of the system.
Oh, no.
Because it's constantly starting and stopping.
Right.
So that can lead to wear and tear.
Yeah.
And it can shorten the lifespan of the system.
So the bigger system might actually not last as long
That's right.
because it's working too hard.
And it's not working efficiently.
So it's actually going to cost you more to run in the long run.
You got it.
So for listeners out there who think they might have a system that's too big for their house,
Yeah.
what should they do?
The best thing to do is to call a professional
Okay.
and have them perform what's called a load calculation.
A load calculation.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's basically an assessment
Okay.
that takes into account a bunch of factors specific to your home,
Like what?
like the size of your house,
Yeah.
how well insulated it is, the efficiency of your windows, and the climate you live in,
Right.
all these things.
Okay.
So it's a really comprehensive look at what your home needs, and that will determine the correct size of HVAC unit for your home.
So it's really tailored to your specific needs.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And are there any telltale signs that your system might be oversized?
Yeah, so if you're noticing a lot of those on and off cycles that we talked about,
Okay.
or if you have big temperature differences between rooms,
Okay.
or if you have really high humidity in the summer,
Got it.
that could be a sign.
Okay, so don't just assume that bigger is better.
Right.
You got to get a professional to figure out the right size for your home.
That's right.
Okay, myth number 4. This one's kind of a general maintenance one.
Yeah.
That HVAC maintenance is something you only have to worry about when your system breaks down.
Yes. The if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach.
Exactly.
But that can actually end up costing you a lot more in the long run.
Yeah, I bet.
It's really important to be proactive with your maintenance.
Right.
Think of it like going to the doctor.
Okay.
It's better to get regular checkups
Right.
than to wait until you're really sick.
Yeah, nobody wants their heating to die in the middle of winter.
Exactly, or your AC in the middle of summer.
Exactly.
And it's not just about preventing breakdowns.
No.
Regular maintenance helps your system run more efficiently.
Right.
So things like cleaning the coils, checking refrigerant levels,
Okay.
lubricating moving parts, all those things.
Yeah.
Help your system run at its peak performance.
Okay, so it's an investment in the long-term health of your system,
It is.
and it's going to save you money in the long run.
Exactly.
So what kind of maintenance can homeowners do themselves?
Well, one of the most important things
Yeah.
is changing your air filters regularly.
Okay, and we're going to talk about air filters in a second.
We are.
But are there other things that homeowners should be doing, or should they be calling a professional?
Well, it's a good idea to have a professional come out at least twice a year.
Okay.
Once in the spring before you start using your AC a lot,
Right.
and once in the fall before you start using your heat a lot.
Makes sense.
And they can do a thorough inspection.
Okay. Make sure everything's running smoothly.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
regular filter changes and those twice yearly professional tune-ups.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to myth number 5.
Okay.
And this one is about air filters.
All right.
The myth is that they're really just about improving air quality,
Yeah.
and they don't really have much impact on the efficiency of your system.
Right.
So is that true?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Air filters are actually really important for both air quality and efficiency.
Okay, so they do both.
They do both.
So how does something as simple as an air filter
Yeah.
affect the efficiency of the whole system?
So when an air filter gets clogged,
Yeah.
it restricts the airflow.
Okay.
So the system has to work harder
You do the same thing.
to move the same amount of air.
Right.
So that means it's using more energy,
Okay.
which means higher energy bills.
Right.
And if it gets really bad,
Yeah.
it can lead to even bigger problems.
I know. Like what?
Like your system overheating or freezing up, and that could lead to like expensive repairs.
Exactly.
Well-
Or even a complete system failure.
Right.
So keeping your air filter clean is really important.
Okay.
It's one of the easiest things you can do
Uh-huh.
to keep your system running smoothly.
Okay. And how often should people be changing their air filters?
The general rule is every 1 to 3 months,
Okay.
but it really depends on a
Okay.
few things.
Okay.
If you have pets, you probably need to change it more often.
Yeah.
If anyone in your house has allergies,
Okay.
or if you just use your system a lot.
Makes sense.
The best thing to do is just check it once a month.
Right.
And if it looks dirty, change it.
Okay. So those filters are more important than we think.
They are.
It's not just about the air quality.
That's right.
It's about the whole system.
The whole system.
Well, this has been a really informative deep dive.
It is.
We've really busted some of those common HVAC myths.
We have.
So just to quickly recap, we talked about how cranking the thermostat doesn't actually make your home heat or cool faster.
Right.
Closing vents doesn't save you money.
Nope.
Bigger systems aren't always better.
In fact, they can be worse.
Exactly. Maintenance is crucial, even when your system seems to be working fine.
Absolutely.
And air filters are about way more than just air quality.
That's right.
So hopefully, by understanding these things, people can be a little more comfortable in their homes
Yeah,
and save some money on their energy bills
absolutely.
and maybe even make their systems last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So as a final thought, I would encourage everyone to think about,
Yeah.
which of these myths they might have believed before
Right.
and, what other areas of their lives
Yeah.
might be subject to similar misconceptions.
It's always good to question what we think we know.
Exactly. And, sometimes digging a little deeper can reveal some surprising truths.
Absolutely.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive
Yeah, we had fun.
and that it's given you some valuable insights.
Yeah.
That. And until our next deep dive.
Stay curious.
Exactly.
Bye.